First contact, the crash. The night sky above the New Mexico desert erupted in a dazzling display of light and sound, startling Dr. Elara Chen from her deep focus. Her eyes, previously glued to a microscope, now darted to the small window of her research outpost. A streaking fireball tore across the starry expanse, leaving a trail of smoke and sparks in its wake. "What on earth?" Elara muttered, pushing her chair back and rushing to the door. As she stepped outside, the cool night air hit her face, carrying with it the acrid scent of burning metal. The fireball, now clearly some sort of craft, was rapidly descending towards the desert floor, its trajectory erratic and uncontrolled. Elara's heart raced. As a xenobiologist, she had spent her entire career studying the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Now it seemed that possibility was hurtling towards her at breakneck speed. Without a second thought, she sprinted to her rugged all-terrain vehicle, her mind already cataloging the equipment she might need. Emergency medical kit, check. Sample collection gear, check. Universal translator prototype, experimental but worth a shot. The engine roared to life, and Elara sped off into the darkness, following the fading glow of the crash site. As she drove, she activated her satellite phone, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "This is Dr. Elara Chen, authorization code Zeta93. I've witnessed an unidentified craft crash landing approximately 20 kilometers southwest of Outpost 42. I'm en route to investigate. Request immediate backup and containment protocol initiation." The response was immediate, but Elara barely registered it. Her focus was entirely on the horizon, where a plume of smoke was now visible against the star-studded sky. As she approached the crash site, Elara slowed her vehicle, acutely aware of the potential dangers. The craft, if that's indeed what it was, had carved a deep furrow into the desert floor, leaving a trail of twisted metal and strange, iridescent debris in its wake. Elara parked at a safe distance and cautiously approached on foot, her flashlight beam cutting through the settling dust. The craft was unlike anything she had ever seen. No wings, no visible propulsion system, just a sleek, oval shape that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Hello," she called out, her voice sounding small in the vast desert night. "Is anyone there? Do you need help?" A sudden movement caught her eye. Something was emerging from the wreckage, something decidedly not human. The creature stumbled from the craft, its movements jerky and uncoordinated. In the beam of her flashlight, Elara could see that it was roughly humanoid in shape, but that's where the similarities ended. Its skin, if it could be called that, shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, shifting colors like oil on water. Instead of hair, a crown of delicate, translucent tendrils adorned its head, waving gently despite the lack of wind. But what struck Elara most were its eyes, large, liquid pools that seemed to reflect the entire universe within them. Those eyes now fixed on her, filled with a mixture of pain, fear, and something else, curiosity. "It's okay," Elara said softly, holding up her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I'm here to help." The creature tilted its head, those mesmerizing eyes blinking rapidly. Then, to Elara's astonishment, it spoke, not in any language she recognized, but in a series of melodic tones and clicks that seemed to resonate in her very bones. Fumbling with her pack, Elara retrieved the Universal Translator prototype. It was an experimental device based on advanced AI and pattern recognition algorithms. She activated it, praying it would work. The alien's song-like speech flowed through the device, and after a moment of processing, a halting translation emerged. "Help, burning, your air, poison." Elara's scientific mind kicked into overdrive. Of course, an alien physiology would likely be incompatible with Earth's atmosphere. She needed to act fast. "I understand," she said clearly, hoping the translator could convert her words. "I'm a doctor, a healer. Let me help you." The alien swayed, its iridescent skin now taking on a worrying, feverish glow. It reached out a hand, a delicate, six-fingered appendage, towards Elara. In that moment, as their fingers almost touched, a blinding light flooded the crash site. The whir of helicopters filled the air, and suddenly the desert was alive with activity. Hazmat-suited figures swarmed the area, shouting orders and securing the perimeter. "Step away from the alien life form, Dr. Chen," a voice boomed through a megaphone. "This is a Class 1 containment situation. You are to report for immediate decontamination and debriefing." Elara felt a surge of frustration and protectiveness. She turned to the approaching officials, her voice firm and unwavering. "This being needs medical attention. Our atmosphere is toxic to its physiology. We need to establish a controlled environment immediately, or we risk losing our first contact." The alien, overwhelmed by the sudden commotion, let out a keening wail that sent shivers down Elara's spine. Its skin was now pulsing with an alarming bright red glow. "Please," Elara pleaded, "let me help. I'm the most qualified person here to handle this situation." There was a tense moment of silence, broken only by the alien's labored breathing. Then, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Let her through. Dr. Chen has full authority on this matter." Elara turned to see Dr. Marcus Reeves, her mentor and the head of the Xenobiology department, striding towards her. His weathered face was a mask of concern and excitement. "Elara," he said, reaching her side, "what do you need?" "An isolation chamber, pure nitrogen atmosphere if possible," Elara replied without hesitation. "And every scrap of data we can salvage from that craft. It's biology, Marcus. It's like nothing we've ever theorized. We're looking at a silicon-based life form, I think, possibly with some form of bioluminescent communication." As she spoke, her eyes never left the alien. It had sunk to its knees, those haunting eyes now fixed on Elara with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Hurry," she urged, as a team rushed forward with a mobile isolation unit. "We're running out of time." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. The alien was safely ensconced in the isolation chamber, its condition stabilizing once removed from Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere. Elara worked tirelessly, analyzing samples and poring over the data retrieved from the crashed ship. As dawn broke over the desert, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Elara finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. She stood before the isolation chamber, watching the alien as it rested. Its skin had returned to a softer, pulsating glow, the colors shifting in what she was beginning to recognize as a form of communication. "You've had quite a night," Dr. Reeves said, appearing at her side and handing her a much-needed cup of coffee. Elara nodded, taking a sip of the bitter brew. "Marcus, do you realize what this means? We're not alone. All our theories, all our hopes, they're real. There's life out there, intelligent life, and it's found us." "Indeed," Marcus replied, his voice grave. "The question now is, what do we do with this knowledge? And more importantly, what does it intend to do with us?" As if in response to his words, the alien stirred. Its eyes opened, focusing immediately on Elara. The universal translator, now refined with the wealth of new linguistic data, crackled to life. "You've saved me," the alien's melodious voice filtered through the device. "Why?" Elara stepped closer to the chamber, her heart pounding. "Because that's what we do. We help those in need. We seek to understand the unknown. I'm Elara. Can you tell me your name?" The alien was silent for a moment, its tendrils waving gently. Then, a series of soft tones emerged, which the translator rendered as, "I am Six, explorer of the luminous concordance. And you, Elara, have broken every protocol of first contact." Elara couldn't help but laugh, the tension of the night finally breaking. "Well, Zix, I think it's safe to say that crash landing on our planet wasn't exactly standard protocol either." Zix's skin flickered with hues of blue and green. Amusement, Elara guessed. Fair point, Ilara of Earth. It seems we have much to learn from each other. As Ilara opened her mouth to respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Red lights flashed, and the room was suddenly a flurry of activity. Dr. Chen, a frantic technician, called out, "We're detecting a massive energy surge from the crash site. Something's happening." Ilara turned to the monitors, her eyes widening at the readings. The crashed ship, which had seemed dead and inert, was now pulsing with energy. Strange, swirling patterns were forming in the sky above it. "Zix," Ilara said urgently, turning back to the isolation chamber. "What's happening? Is this your people coming to rescue you?" The alien's colors had shifted to a deep, ominous purple. Its voice, when it came through the translator, was filled with dread. "Not rescue, Ilara. I fear it may be retrieval, and not just of me." As the implications of Zix's words sank in, Ilara realized that the night's events were only the beginning. The true challenge, for her, for Zix, for all of humanity, was just unfolding. "Then we need to work together," Ilara said firmly, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Tell me everything you know, Zix. Earth's fate may depend on it." As the alien began to speak, Ilara knew that her life's work had led her to this moment. The encounter that would shape humanity's future had begun, and she was at the heart of it. Whatever came next, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. Hidden truths, the revelation. The facility hummed with tension as Ilara leaned closer to the isolation chamber, her eyes fixed on Zix. The alien's skin pulsed with deep purples and reds, a visual representation of the gravity of the situation. "Explain, Zix," Ilara urged, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "What do you mean by retrieval? Who's coming, and what do they want?" Zix's tendrils waved agitatedly as it spoke, the translator working overtime to keep up. "The luminous concordance, my people, they are not as benevolent as their name suggests. They sent me as a scout to assess your world's potential." "Potential for what?" Dr. Reeves interjected, his bushy eyebrows furrowed with concern. Zix's colors darkened further. "For harvesting. Your planet is rich in resources that are vital to our survival. My mission was to determine if this world was inhabited by sentient life." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. "And now that they know it is." "They will come in force," Zix said, its voice tinged with regret. "To them, the presence of intelligent life is merely an inconvenience to be overcome." The implications of Zix's words hung heavy in the air. Ilara's mind raced, processing the enormous threat they now faced. But as a scientist, she knew that understanding was the first step towards finding a solution. "Tell me about your biology, Zix," she said, forcing herself to focus. "You said our air is poison to you. Why? What's different about your physiology?" As Zix began to explain, Ilara's eyes widened with wonder and realization. The alien's body was a marvel of silicon-based life, utterly unlike anything on Earth. Its cells were crystalline structures that absorbed and emitted light, explaining the bioluminescent communication. But it was the alien's respiratory system that truly captured Ilara's attention. "You don't breathe oxygen," she murmured, pieces falling into place. "You absorb nitrogen directly into your cellular structure, and the oxidation process is toxic to you." Zix's skin shimmered with approval. "Correct, Ilara. Your atmosphere is slowly killing me, despite this chamber. I need to return to my ship to fully recover." Dr. Reeves shook his head. "Out of the question. That ship is our only bargaining chip if your people decide to invade." Ilara, however, was lost in thought, an idea forming. "Maybe not," she said slowly. "Zix, your people, they're all like you. Silicon-based, nitrogen-breathing." "Yes," Zix confirmed. "It is the foundation of life in our sector of the galaxy." A smile spread across Ilara's face, the kind that had led to her most groundbreaking discoveries. "Then that's our advantage. Your people may be technologically advanced, but they're biologically vulnerable here. We need to get you back to your ship, Zix. Not to send you away, but to work together. Alarms blared again, cutting off any response. A young technician burst into the room, his face pale. "Dr. Chen, Dr. Rees, you need to see this." They rushed to the main control room, where a large screen displayed satellite imagery of the crash site. The energy readings were off the charts, and a swirling vortex was forming in the sky above. "It's a wormhole," Ilara breathed, recognizing the phenomenon from theoretical models. "They're coming." As if on cue, a sleek, enormous ship emerged from the vortex. It hovered ominously over the crash site, its surface shimmering with the same iridescence as Zix's skin. "We're receiving a transmission," a communications officer announced, her voice shaking slightly. The screen flickered, and an alien face appeared, similar to Zix but larger, its tendrils more numerous and its eyes cold and calculating. "Beings of Earth," the alien's voice boomed through the translator. "We are the luminous concordance. Your world has been chosen. Surrender your resources, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and you will suffer. You have one planetary rotation to decide." The transmission cut off, leaving a stunned silence in its wake. Ilara turned to Dr. Rees, her jaw set with determination. "We need to move fast. Get me clearance to return to the crash site with Zix. And I need a team, the best minds in biology, chemistry, and physics." "Ilara, you can't be serious," Rees protested. "We should be evacuating, preparing our defenses." "Traditional defenses won't work against them, Marcus," Ilara argued. "But we have something they don't expect, a willingness to cooperate with Zix. Trust me, please. This is our best shot." After a tense moment, Rees nodded. "You have 6 hours. Make them count." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Ilara worked feverishly with a hastily assembled team, brainstorming ideas and running simulations. Zix, now moved to a portable containment unit, provided crucial insights into the Concordance's technology and biology. As they prepared to move out, Ilara approached Zix's chamber. "I need to know," she said softly. "Why are you helping us? You're risking everything." Zix's colors shifted to a soft, warm gold. "Because you showed me something my people have forgotten, Ilara. Compassion. You saved me when you could have let me die. Your world, your people, they're worth protecting." Ilara felt a lump in her throat. "Thank you, Zix. Whatever happens, I'm glad we met." The journey to the crash site was tense, the looming shape of the Concordance's ship a constant reminder of the threat they faced. As they approached Zix's craft, Ilara couldn't help but marvel at its design. What had seemed broken in the crash now appeared to be self-repairing, the ship's surface rippling and reforming. "Incredible," she murmured. "Your technology, it's almost alive." "In a way, it is," Zix explained. "Our ships are grown, not built. They are extensions of ourselves." As they worked to integrate their equipment with Zix's ship, Ilara outlined her plan to the team. "We're going to create a localized atmospheric conversion field," she explained. "If we can extend Zix's ship's life support system, we can create a bubble of nitrogen-rich, oxygen-poor air around the Concordance's landing site." "But won't that just make them more comfortable?" a young physicist asked, confusion evident on his face. Ilara shook her head, a grim smile on her face. "No, because we're going to add a twist. Zix, your people's bioluminescence, it's not just for communication, is it? It's part of your energy absorption process." Zix's skin flickered with surprise. "You are correct, Ilara. How did you know?" "Because it's the missing piece," Ilara said excitedly. "We're not just going to change the air composition. We're going to saturate it with a carefully tailored wavelength of light, one that will supercharge your people's energy absorption process." Understanding dawned on the faces of her team. One of the chemists spoke up, like overfeeding them energy. "Their systems won't be able to handle it." "Exactly," Ilara nodded. "It won't kill them, but it should incapacitate them long enough for us to negotiate." As the team worked tirelessly to bring the plan to fruition, the deadline set by the Concordance drew ever closer. The sky began to lighten with the approaching dawn, a cruel reminder of how little time they had left. Finally, as the first rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon, Ilara stepped back from the modified ship. Sweat beaded on her brow, and her hands shook with exhaustion, but her eyes shone with determination. "It's ready," she announced. "Now we wait." They didn't have to wait long. As if sensing the expiration of their ultimatum, the Concordance's ship began to descend. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the massive craft lowered itself to the desert floor. Ilara took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "Zix," she said, turning to the alien who had become an unlikely ally. "If this works, your people will be vulnerable. I give you my word, we won't take advantage of that. We want peace, not conquest." Zix's colors swirled with a complex mix of emotions. "I trust you, Ilara. You have shown me the best of humanity. Whatever happens, know that you have opened my eyes to a new way of seeing the universe." With a nod of acknowledgement, Ilara flipped the switch. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a shimmering dome of energy expanded from Zix's ship, encompassing the landing site. The air within the dome took on a subtle, shifting quality, alive with carefully calibrated light waves. The effect on the Concordance was immediate and dramatic. As the first soldiers emerged from their ship, their movements became erratic. Their skin blazed with an intensity that seemed painful, colors shifting rapidly in patterns of distress. "It's working," Ilara breathed, hardly daring to believe it. But their victory was short-lived. A massive surge of energy erupted from the Concordance's ship, pushing against the atmospheric dome. Alarms blared from their equipment as the dome began to fluctuate. "They're fighting back," one of the technicians shouted. "The dome is destabilizing." Ilara's mind raced. They were so close, but the Concordance's superior technology was overwhelming the hastily constructed defense. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. "Zix," she said urgently, "your ship, can it boost the signal?" "Yes," Zix replied, "but it would require direct interface. I would need to be outside the containment unit." "You'll die if you leave it," Ilara protested, even as she realized the choice before them. Zix's colors settled into a calm, resolute blue. "Perhaps, but if I don't, your world will suffer. You saved me, Ilara. Now let me return the favor." Before Ilara could argue further, Zix's containment unit opened. The alien moved with surprising speed, its form blurring as it raced towards its ship. As Zix merged with the craft, a blinding pulse of energy erupted, reinforcing the dome and saturating the air with an even more intense light. The effect was instantaneous. The Concordance forces collapsed, their luminous bodies pulsing with chaotic, overwhelming energy. Their ship's systems sputtered and failed, the massive craft settling heavily onto the desert floor. As the dust settled, Ilara approached Zix's ship with trepidation. The alien's form was barely visible, seeming to have merged almost entirely with the craft. "Zix," Ilara called out, her voice thick with emotion. "Are you there?" A faint shimmer of color rippled across the ship's surface. When Zix's voice came through the translator, it was weak but triumphant. "We did it, Ilara. Your world is safe." Ilara placed her hand on the ship's surface, feeling a faint warmth beneath her palm. "Thank you, Zix. But what about you? How can we help you?" The ship pulsed gently. "My fate is uncertain, but through our actions, a new future is possible, for both our peoples." As the first light of a new day spread across the desert, Ilara stood tall, facing the disabled Concordance ship. The battle was won, but she knew the real work was just beginning. Humanity had taken its first steps onto a galactic stage, and she, along with her unlikely alien friend, would be at the forefront of shaping this new era. With determination in her heart and the weight of two worlds on her shoulders, Ilara prepared to face whatever challenges the future might hold. The dawn of a new age had arrived, and humanity would meet it head-on. Unlikely alliance. The plan. The desert sun climbed higher in the sky, its harsh light illuminating a scene that, just hours ago, would have been unthinkable. The massive Concordance ship lay silent and inert, its once gleaming surface now dull and lifeless. Surrounding it, teams of scientists and military personnel worked feverishly, securing the area and gathering data. At the heart of this controlled chaos stood Elara, her eyes fixed on the shimmering form of Zix's ship. The alien's sacrifice had saved them all, but at what cost? Dr. Chen, a voice called out, breaking her reverie. She turned to see Colonel Ramirez, the military liaison assigned to the project, approaching with a grim expression. "We need to talk about next steps. The brass is breathing down my neck for answers." Elara nodded, her exhaustion momentarily pushed aside by the urgency of the situation. "Of course, Colonel. But first, we need to stabilize Zix. Their knowledge is crucial for what's coming next." Ramirez's eyebrows shot up. "You think there's a way to save the alien? After what it did?" "After what they did to save us, you mean?" Elara corrected firmly. "And yes, I believe there is. Zix's consciousness seems to have merged with the ship's systems. If we can isolate it and provide a suitable environment, we might be able to regenerate their physical form." The colonel looked skeptical but nodded. "All right, Doctor. You've gotten us this far. What do you need?" Over the next few hours, Elara worked tirelessly with her team to create a controlled environment within Zix's ship. They repurposed the atmospheric conversion technology, creating a nitrogen-rich bubble that they hoped would support Zix's regeneration. As the final adjustments were made, Elara placed her hand on the ship's surface. "Zix," she called out softly, "if you can hear me, we're ready. We're going to try to bring you back." For a long moment, there was nothing. Then, slowly, a pulse of soft blue light spread from beneath Elara's hand. The ship's surface began to ripple and flow, coalescing into a familiar form. Gasps of awe echoed around her as Zix reformed, that iridescent body shimmering into existence. Zix's eyes fluttered open, focusing on Elara. "You saved me." Again they said, then a voice weak but filled with wonder. Elara smiled, blinking back tears of relief. "We take care of our friends," she said simply. "How do you feel?" "Different," Zix replied, their tendrils waving slowly. "I retain much of the ship's knowledge. It's overwhelming." Before Elara could respond, Colonel Ramirez stepped forward. "I hate to break up the reunion, but we have pressing matters to discuss. The Concordance soldiers are starting to wake up, and we need a plan." Zix's colors shifted to a serious deep blue. "Yes, we must act quickly. The Concordance will not take this defeat lightly. They will send reinforcements." The next few hours were a whirlwind of strategy meetings and heated debates. Elara, Zix, Colonel Ramirez, and a team of Earth's top scientists and military strategists gathered in a hastily erected command center to formulate a plan. "We can't just sit here and wait for them to return with a bigger fleet," Ramirez argued, his fist pounding the table for emphasis. "We need to take the fight to them." Dr. Reeves shook his head. "With what? With centuries behind their technology, it would be suicide." Elara, who had been quietly conferring with Zix, cleared her throat. "Maybe not," she said, her eyes gleaming with that look that her colleagues had learned to both fear and respect. "Zix and I have an idea. It's risky, but it might be our best shot." All eyes turned to her as she outlined their plan. The Concordance's strength is also their weakness. Their silicon-based biology makes them incredibly vulnerable to our oxygen-rich atmosphere. We propose to weaponize its vulnerability. "You want to gas them?" Ramirez asked, his tone a mixture of surprise and grudging admiration. "Not exactly," Zix interjected, their skin pulsing with excited colors. "We want to change them. Elara's brilliant mind has conceived of a way to potentially alter the Concordance's basic biology, making them compatible with Earth's atmosphere." A stunned silence fell over the room. It was Dr. Reeves who finally spoke up, his voice filled with awe and concern. You're talking about forced evolution on a massive scale. The ethical implications alone are less concerning than the annihilation of our species, Ilara finished firmly. I don't like it either, Marcus, but we're out of options. This way, at least we give them a chance at survival. Just a different kind of survival. Colonel Ramirez leaned forward, his interest piqued. How would this work? And more importantly, how do we deliver it? Ilara took a deep breath and launched into her explanation. We'll create a retrovirus, one specifically tailored to the Concordance's silicon-based DNA. It will rewrite their genetic code, gradually shifting their biology to an oxygen-tolerant form. As for delivery, she turned to Zix. That's where you come in. Zix's tendrils waved in agreement. My ship, while damaged, still retains its ability to create wormholes. We can use it to deliver the virus directly to the Concordance homeworld. The room erupted in a cacophony of voices, arguments for and against the plan flying back and forth. Ilara stood firm, her belief in their desperate gambit unwavering. Finally, after what felt like hours of debate, a consensus was reached. They would move forward with the plan, but with one crucial addition. We need a backup, Colonel Ramirez insisted. Something to buy us time if the virus doesn't work immediately. Dr. Reeves nodded thoughtfully. What about a scaled-up version of our atmospheric conversion field? If we can create a large enough bubble of nitrogen-rich air around Earth, it might deter or weaken any incoming Concordance forces. Ilara's eyes lit up. Yes, we could use the Concordance ship we captured. If we can repurpose its technology, we might be able to create a planetary shield. As the team dispersed to begin their assigned tasks, Ilara found herself alone with Zix. The alien's colors had shifted to a pensive purple. You're worried, Ilara observed softly. Zix's tendrils waved slowly. What we're attempting, it will change everything. My people, if they survive, will never be the same. And yours, the technology we're giving you will advance your civilization by centuries. Are we ready for the consequences? Ilara placed a comforting hand on Zix's shimmering surface. I don't know, she admitted, but I do know that we're stronger together than we are apart. Whatever comes next, we'll face it united. Zix's colors warmed to a gentle gold. Your optimism is admirable, Ilara. I hope it proves well-founded. As they prepared to part ways, each to oversee different aspects of their daring plan, Ilara felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders. The fate of two civilizations now rested on their success. The next few days passed in a blur of frenetic activity. Ilara worked around the clock with her team of geneticists and xenobiologists, painstakingly crafting the retrovirus that would rewrite the very essence of the Concordance. Every simulation, every test had to be perfect. There would be no second chances. Meanwhile, another team, led by Dr. Reeves and assisted by the more cooperative Concordance prisoners, labored to adapt the alien ship's technology into a planetary defense system. The work was grueling and fraught with setbacks, but slowly, steadily, progress was made. Zix split their time between the two projects, their unique insights proving invaluable. But as the days wore on, Ilara noticed a change in her alien friend. Zix's colors seemed muted, their movements less fluid. What's wrong? Ilara asked during a rare quiet moment. And don't tell me it's nothing. I'm getting pretty good at reading your colors. Zix's skin rippled with a soft, sad blue. I'm torn, Ilara. What we're doing, it's necessary, I understand that. But I can't help but mourn for what my people will lose. Our connection to the stars, our way of life, everything will change. Ilara felt a lump form in her throat. In the rush of their work, she had almost forgotten the personal cost to Zix. I'm so sorry, she said softly. I wish there was another way. There isn't, Zix replied, their colors firming to a resolute green. And that's why we must succeed. The alternative is unthinkable. As they shared a moment of understanding, an alarm blared through the facility. Colonel Ramirez's voice crackled over the intercom, urgent and tense. Dr. Chen Zix, report to the command center immediately. We've got incoming. Ilara's heart raced as she and Zix hurried through the corridors. When they burst into the command center, they found it a hive of frantic activity. Report, Ilara demanded, her eyes scanning the screens, filled with data and satellite imagery. Multiple wormholes opening in high orbit, a technician reported, her voice tight with stress. We're detecting at least 5 concordance ships, larger than the one we captured. Colonel Ramirez turned to Ilara and Zix, his face grim. Looks like we've run out of time. Please tell me you've got something we can use. Ilara exchanged a look with Zix. The retrovirus was ready, but they hadn't had time to test it thoroughly. The planetary shield was operational, but untried on such a large scale. Everything they had worked for now came down to this moment. We're ready, Ilara said, injecting confidence into her voice that she didn't entirely feel. Zix, prepare your ship. We need to launch the virus now, before they can establish a foothold. As Zix hurried to comply, Ilara turned to Dr. Reeves. Marcus, power up the shield. We need every defense we can muster. The room burst into action, everyone moving with purpose born of desperate necessity. As Ilara watched the incoming ships on the main screen, a strange calm settled over her. Whatever happened next would change the course of human history, of galactic history. There was no going back now. Zix's ship is ready for launch, a technician reported. Retrovirus payload is loaded and primed. Planetary shield is powering up, another voice called out. 80%, 90%, we're at full power. Ilara took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the launch command. She thought of everything that had led to this moment, the crash, the first contact, the battles and breakthroughs. She thought of Zix and the friendship that had blossomed against all odds. For Earth, she whispered, for the concordance, for a future we'll build together. With a silent prayer to whatever forces might be listening, Ilara pressed the button. On the screen, a small blip detached from the Earth, streaking towards the incoming concordance fleet. Around the planet, a shimmering field of energy flickered into existence. As Zix's ship disappeared into a self-generated wormhole, carrying its world-altering cargo, Ilara steeled herself for what was to come. The real test was just beginning, and the fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance. The future, uncertain and fraught with peril, but also bright with possibility, awaited them all. Trial by fire. The journey. The command center fell into an eerie silence as all eyes focused on the main screen. Zix's ship, a tiny blip of hope carrying the fate of 2 worlds, disappeared into the self-generated wormhole. For a moment, it seemed as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then, chaos erupted. Multiple energy signatures detected. A technician shouted, "The Concordance fleet is powering up their weapons." Colonel Ramirez's voice cut through the pandemonium. "Shield status." "Holding at 100%, sir," came the reply. "But we don't know how long it'll last against their firepower." Ilara's mind raced. They needed more time. "Can we open a channel to the Concordance ships?" she asked urgently. Ramirez shot her a skeptical look, but nodded to the communications officer. "Do it." A tense moment passed before a familiar face appeared on the screen, the same Concordance leader who had delivered the ultimatum days ago. Its tendrils writhed with angry, pulsating colors. "Humans," it spat, the translator struggling to convey the venom in its tone. "Your primitive defenses cannot hope to." "We have your people," Ilara interrupted, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "The ones from the crashed ship, they're alive and unharmed." The alien leader paused, its colors shifting subtly. "You lie. No one could survive in your toxic atmosphere." "See for yourself," Ilara countered, nodding to the technician who pulled up a live feed of the captured Concordance soldiers contained in a nitrogen-rich environment. The leader's tendrils stilled, its massive eyes widening in what Ilara hoped was surprise. How is this possible? We found a way to help them survive here, Ilara explained, choosing her words carefully. We want to negotiate. Surely the lives of your people are worth a conversation. A tense silence followed, broken only by the beeping of consoles and the nervous breathing of the humans in the room. Finally, the concordance leader spoke. You have one planetary rotation. Prepare your leaders for negotiation. Any hostile action will result in immediate annihilation. The screen went dark, and a collective sigh of relief echoed through the command center. Well done, Dr. Chen, Ramirez said, a hint of admiration in his voice. You fought us some time. Now, let's make it count. As the hours ticked by, Ilara found herself in a whirlwind of activity. World leaders were briefed, strategies were debated, and preparations were made for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. Through it all, a gnawing worry ate at her. What was happening with Zix and the retrovirus? Her answer came just as dawn was breaking over the horizon. Alarms blared once again, but this time it was accompanied by a surge of hope. Wormhole detected. A technician shouted, It's Zix's ship. Ilara rushed to the screen, her heart in her throat. The small craft emerged from the swirling vortex, looking battered but intact. As it entered Earth's atmosphere, Ilara could barely contain her relief. Get them to the landing zone now, she ordered, already running towards the exit. By the time Ilara reached the designated area, a crowd had gathered. Scientists, military personnel, and government officials all waited with bated breath as Zix's ship touched down. The door opened with a hiss, and a familiar iridescent form emerged. Zix, Ilara called out, rushing forward, but she stopped short as she got a closer look at her friend. Zix's form was different, altered in subtle but unmistakable ways. Their skin, while still shimmering, had taken on a more solid appearance. The delicate tendrils on their head seemed shorter, more controlled. And their eyes, Ilara, Zix said, their voice a mix of familiar tones and new, more human-like inflections. It worked, but not quite as we expected. As Zix explained, a stunned silence fell over the assembled crowd. The retrovirus had indeed spread through the Concordance homeworld, but its effects were more rapid and profound than they had anticipated. Within hours, the entire Concordance population had begun to transform, their biology shifting to adapt to an oxygen-rich environment. The change was difficult, Zix admitted, their colors pulsing with remembered pain. But as our bodies transformed, so did our perspective. The drive to conquer, to harvest, it diminished. We began to see the universe, to see other life forms, in a new light. Ilara's mind reeled with the implications, and the fleet, the ones in orbit. They will have felt the change too, Zix confirmed. The virus spreads through our technology, our very ships. They are likely very confused right now. As if on cue, Colonel Ramirez approached, his face a mix of excitement and concern. Dr. Chen, we're receiving a transmission from the Concordance fleet. They're requesting to land. All of them. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Under heavy guard and strict quarantine protocols, the Concordance ships were allowed to land in designated areas around the globe. As Ilara had suspected, the retrovirus had affected them all, triggering a transformation that left them disoriented but remarkably peaceful. World leaders scrambled to adapt to this unprecedented situation. What had begun as a defensive stand against an invasion was rapidly evolving into the largest humanitarian, or rather xeno-humanitarian, operation in Earth's history. Amidst the chaos, Ilara found a quiet moment with Zix, watching as teams of scientists and doctors rushed to assist the transforming Concordance members. I never imagined it would be like this, Ilara admitted, her voice soft with wonder and a touch of guilt. We've changed them so fundamentally. Was it right? Did we have the right to make this choice for them? Zix's colors swirled thoughtfully. It was a choice between change and extinction, Ilara. For them and for humanity. There was no perfect solution, but you found a path that preserved life. That counts for something." Ilara nodded, but the weight of responsibility still sat heavily on her shoulders. "What happens now? To you, to them, to us?" Now, Zix said, their new, more human-like eyes twinkling with an emotion Ilara couldn't quite place. "We learn from each other. We grow together. The journey we've begun, it's only the start." As the days passed, the true scope of the changes became apparent. The Concordance, once a threat to Earth's very existence, was now a civilization in transition. Their advanced technology, combined with their new biology, opened up possibilities that humanity had only dreamed of. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural clashes, misunderstandings, and fear on both sides led to tense moments and occasional outbreaks of violence. Ilara found herself at the forefront of these conflicts, working tirelessly to bridge the gap between humans and the transformed Concordance. One particularly fraught negotiation session stood out in her memory. Representatives from Earth's nations sat across from the Concordance leaders, their transformed bodies still a jarring sight to many. "You expect us to simply forgive and forget," one human diplomat spat, "after you came here to conquer us." The Concordance leader, its once writhing tendrils now more like iridescent hair, spoke calmly. "We do not ask for forgiveness, only understanding. We are not who we were. The change has given us perspective we lacked before." "Pretty words," another human representative scoffed, "but how can we trust you?" It was Zix who stepped forward then, their former living bridge between the two species. "Trust is earned," they said, addressing both sides. "We have all been changed by recent events. The question now is, how will we choose to move forward?" Ilara watched with pride as Zix deftly navigated the tense negotiations. Her friend had become a symbol of what was possible, a living example of cooperation and mutual understanding. As the talks progressed, plans began to take shape. The Concordance's advanced technology would be shared, but under strict controls and with joint development teams. In return, Earth would help the transformed Concordance adapt to their new biology and find a place in this new, shared universe. But even as progress was made on the diplomatic front, new challenges arose. Reports began to come in of strange phenomena occurring around the globe. Unusual energy readings, unexplained atmospheric disturbances, and sightings of bizarre, otherworldly creatures had people on edge. "It's the retrovirus," Dr. Reeves explained during an emergency meeting. "It's not just affecting the Concordance. It's interacting with Earth's biosphere in ways we couldn't have predicted." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you saying, Marcus?" The older scientist's face was grim. "I'm saying that in our rush to save humanity, we may have triggered changes on a scale we can barely comprehend. The very fabric of our reality is being altered." As if to underscore his words, a low rumble shook the building. Outside, the sky had taken on an eerie, shimmering quality, like the surface of a soap bubble. Colonel Ramirez burst into the room, his face pale. "You need to see this," he said, leading them to a window. What Ilara saw took her breath away. The shimmering in the sky had coalesced into swirling vortexes, not unlike the wormholes used by the Concordance ships. But these were different, wilder somehow, and emerging from them were things. Creatures that defied description, a blend of organic and crystalline forms that hurt the eyes to look at directly. "What have we done?" someone whispered in horror. But amidst the fear and confusion, Ilara felt a strange sense of exhilaration. Yes, they had changed the world, changed the universe, in ways they couldn't have imagined. But isn't that what humanity had always done? Pushed boundaries, explored the unknown, adapted and evolved. She turned to the room, her voice strong and clear. "We've opened a door we can't close," she said, "but that doesn't mean we're helpless. We have the combined knowledge of two advanced civilizations. We have the strength that comes from overcoming our differences. Whatever's coming through those portals, we'll face it together." Zix moved to stand beside her, their colors pulsing with determination. "Ilara is right. This is not an end, but a beginning. A new chapter in the story of life itself. As the strange, beautiful, terrifying new reality unfolded around them, Ilara felt a surge of hope. They had survived first contact. They had averted war. Now, they faced a challenge greater than any they could have imagined. But they would face it united, humans, transformed concordance, and whatever new forms of life awaited them beyond those shimmering portals. The journey that had begun with a crash in the desert had led them here, to the threshold of a new era. And whatever lay ahead, Ilara knew one thing for certain: it would be an adventure unlike any other. Turning point, the sacrifice. The world Ilara knew was changing at a dizzying pace. In the weeks following the appearance of the mysterious portals, Earth had become a nexus of interstellar activity. The shimmering vortexes that dotted the sky were now a common sight, drawing both wonder and fear from those who gazed upon them. Ilara found herself at the heart of it all, leading a joint task force of humans and transformed concordance members. Their mission: to understand and contain the otherworldly phenomena that threatened to overwhelm their world. Another incursion in Sector 7, reported Dr. Yuki Tanaka, one of Ilara's most trusted team members. Her holographic image flickered as she gestured to a 3D map of the globe. "We've managed to stabilize the area, but these events are becoming more frequent." Ilara nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. What about the beings that came through? Were we able to communicate with them? Yuki shook her head. Not in any conventional sense. They seem to operate on principles of reality we can barely comprehend. But she hesitated, her expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "We did notice something interesting. They respond to certain frequencies of light and sound in ways that suggest a form of communication." "Interesting indeed," mused Six, their iridescent forms shimmering as they studied the data. "Perhaps we could adapt some of our old bioluminescent communication techniques?" As the team delved into discussions of potential communication strategies, Ilara couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Humans and concordance, once on the brink of war, now worked side by side to face a threat beyond anything they could have imagined. But for every step forward, new challenges arose. Reports were coming in from around the globe of people experiencing strange symptoms, sudden bursts of inhuman strength, inexplicable knowledge of alien languages, even the ability to manipulate energy in ways that defied known physics. "It's the retrovirus," Dr. Reeves explained during one tense briefing. "It's not content with just changing the concordance. It's affecting humans too, albeit in unpredictable ways." The implications were staggering. Humanity itself was evolving, pushed by the retrovirus into new forms of existence. Some celebrated these changes as the next step in human evolution. Others feared them, seeing the loss of their humanity. Ilara felt the weight of responsibility more heavily than ever. The retrovirus had been her idea, her creation. Its far-reaching consequences were, in a very real sense, her doing. As she grappled with these thoughts, a new crisis emerged. One of the largest portals yet had appeared over the Pacific Ocean, and from it emerged a being of truly colossal proportions. Initial readings suggested it was as large as a small island, its form a shifting mass of crystalline structures and pulsating energy. "We're calling it the Nexus entity," Colonel Ramirez briefed the emergency response team. "It's not aggressive, but its mere presence is causing massive disturbances in Earth's magnetic field. If we can't find a way to communicate with it or send it back, the consequences could be catastrophic." Ilara exchanged a look with Zix. They both knew what needed to be done. "We need to go out there," Ilara said, her voice firm. "If we can establish direct contact, maybe we can find a way to communicate, to understand its purpose." The plan was risky, to say the least. Using a modified concordance ship, Ilara, Zix, and a small team of specialists would approach the Nexus entity. They would attempt to establish communication using a combination of human technology and concordance bioluminescent signaling. As they prepared for the mission, Ilara found a quiet moment with Zix. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, unable to keep the concern from her voice. "We don't know what effect prolonged exposure to the entity might have on you." Zix's colors pulsed with warm reassurance. "I'm sure, Elara. We started this journey together. It's only fitting we face this challenge side by side." The launch was tense, the modified ship humming with energy as it rose through the atmosphere. As they approached the Nexus entity, its true scale became apparent. It dwarfed their ship, its surface a mesmerizing dance of light and geometric patterns. Initiating contact protocols, Dr. Tanaka announced, her fingers flying over the control panel. The ship began to emit a carefully calibrated series of light pulses and sound frequencies. For long moments, nothing happened. Then, without warning, a tendril of energy extended from the entity, enveloping their ship in a cocoon of shimmering light. Alarms blared as the ship's systems went haywire. "We're losing power," shouted one of the technicians. "It's drawing us in." Elara felt a moment of panic, but then a strange calm settled over her. "Wait," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I think it's trying to communicate." The interior of the ship filled with a soft, pulsating light. Elara felt a presence in her mind, vast and alien, yet somehow familiar. Images and concepts flooded her consciousness: the birth of stars, the dance of galaxies, the intricate web of reality itself. "It's beautiful," she breathed, tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Zix was undergoing a similar experience, their form pulsing with rapidly shifting colors. "Elara," they said, their voice filled with awe. "I understand now. The portals, the changes to our world, it's all part of something bigger. A cosmic evolution." As the revelation washed over them, Elara realized the true nature of their situation. The Nexus entity wasn't a threat. It was a catalyst, a harbinger of change on a universal scale. And Earth, through the unintended consequences of the retrovirus, had become a focal point for this transformation. But with this understanding came a terrible choice. The entity was drawing energy from Earth, using it to fuel the changes sweeping across the cosmos. If left unchecked, it would drain their world dry. "We need to redirect it," Elara said, the plan forming in her mind even as she spoke. "If we can channel the energy from the ship's power core, we might be able to satisfy its needs without sacrificing Earth." Zix's colors dimmed in concern. "Elara, the power required, it would mean." "I know," Elara said softly, "but it's the only way." The next few minutes were a blur of activity. As the rest of the team worked to stabilize the ship, Elara and Zix made their way to the engine room. The plan was simple, but the cost would be high. By overloading the ship's experimental quantum core, they could create a burst of energy massive enough to redirect the Nexus entity's focus. As Elara worked on the final calculations, Zix placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Let me do it," they said, their voice filled with determination. "My physiology is better suited to withstand the energy surge." Elara felt her heart clench. "Zix, no, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking," Zix replied, their colors pulsing with affection and resolve. "I'm offering. You've given me so much, Elara. You've shown me the best of humanity. Let me do this, for you and for Earth." Tears welled up in Elara's eyes as she realized the truth of Zix's words. With a heavy heart, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered, "but I'm staying with you until the end." As alarms blared and the ship shuddered around them, Elara and Zix worked in perfect synchronization. The quantum core hummed with building energy, its glow intensifying by the second. "It's time," Zix said, moving towards the core. They turned to Elara, their colors a symphony of emotion. "Thank you, Elara, for everything. For showing me what it truly means to be alive." Elara wanted to say so much. How Zix had changed her life, how their friendship had opened her eyes to the wonders of the universe. But all she could manage was a choked, "I'll never forget you." With one last pulse of warmth, Zix merged with the quantum core. The room filled with blinding light as energy surged through the ship. Ilara felt herself being thrown back, the world around her dissolving into pure, radiant energy. When she came to, Ilara found herself back on Earth, surrounded by anxious faces. As she struggled to focus, the events of the past hours came rushing back. The Nexus entity, she gasped, trying to sit up. What happened? Dr. Rees gently pushed her back down. Easy, Ilara. You've been through a lot. The entity, it's gone. Whatever you and Zix did up there, it worked. The portals have stabilized, and the cosmic disturbances are subsiding. Ilara felt a wave of relief, quickly followed by a crushing sense of loss. And Zix, she asked, though she already knew the answer. The sorrow in Dr. Ree's eyes told her everything. I'm so sorry, Ilara. There's no sign of them. The ship was completely vaporized in the energy surge. Ilara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of Zix's sacrifice settle over her. But even in her grief, she knew that her friend's final act had changed everything. In the days that followed, as Ilara recovered and the world began to adjust to its new reality, the full impact of their encounter with the Nexus entity became clear. The portals remained, but they were now stable, controllable. The chaotic evolution spurred by the retrovirus had settled into a more manageable pace. Earth had become a true nexus point in the galaxy, a place where multiple realities intersected and new forms of life and consciousness emerged. It was a future filled with challenges, but also with boundless possibilities. As Ilara stood at the window of the research facility, gazing up at the shimmering portals that now dotted the sky, she felt a bittersweet mix of sorrow and hope. Zix was gone, but their sacrifice had opened up a new chapter for both humanity and the transformed Concordance. We'll make you proud, Zix, she whispered to the stars. We'll build the future you believed in, together. And as if in response, a soft pulse of light rippled across the sky, a reminder that in this new, interconnected cosmos, nothing was truly lost. The adventure that had begun with a crash in the desert had transformed not just Ilara, not just Earth, but the very fabric of reality itself. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with wonders and dangers beyond imagination. But as Ilara turned back to her team, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: they would face it all together, carrying forward the legacy of understanding and cooperation that Zix had embodied. The cosmos awaited, and humanity, changed, evolved, but still fundamentally itself, was ready to take its place among the stars. New horizons, the triumph. 5 years had passed since the encounter with the Nexus entity, and Earth had undergone a transformation that would have been unimaginable just a few short years ago. The stable portals that dotted the globe had become gateways to new worlds and new forms of existence. Humanity, forever changed by the retrovirus and their brush with cosmic forces, had taken its first tentative steps into a larger, more complex universe. Ilara Chen, now director of the newly formed Interstellar Cooperation and Research Initiative, ICRI, stood at the podium, addressing a diverse audience of humans, transformed concordants, and representatives from a dozen other species they had encountered through the portals. 5 years ago, she began, her voice strong and clear. We stood on the brink of annihilation. Today, we stand at the threshold of a new era of exploration and understanding. The sacrifices made, the challenges overcome, have led us to this moment. As she spoke, Ilara's mind drifted to Zix, her friend whose ultimate sacrifice had made this future possible. Though the pain of loss had dulled over time, the impact of Zix's actions continued to resonate through every aspect of this new world. The Harmony Protocol, Ilara continued, gesturing to the holographic display behind her, represents the culmination of our combined efforts. A framework for peaceful coexistence and mutual growth, not just between species, but between realities. The Harmony Protocol was a result of years of negotiation, scientific breakthrough, and cultural exchange. It established guidelines for interspecies interaction, ethical use of portal technology, and the responsible development of the new abilities that continued to manifest in the population. As Ilara outlined the key points of the protocol, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. The transformed concordants, once their would-be conquerors, now stood as their staunchest allies. Their unique perspective, bridging the gap between their old silicon-based existence and their new hybrid form, had been invaluable in navigating the challenges of this new cosmic landscape. But it hadn't all been smooth sailing. There had been setbacks, conflicts, and moments of crisis that had tested their resolve. Ilara remembered the resonance plague, a mysterious ailment that had swept through portal-adjacent communities, causing individuals to phase in and out of reality. It had taken a combined effort of human medical science, concordance energy manipulation techniques, and insights from their new extradimensional allies to develop a cure. Then there was the harmonic convergence event, when all the portals had briefly synchronized, causing a surge of energy that had reshaped entire landscapes and gifted thousands with unprecedented abilities. The aftermath had been chaotic, but it had also led to breakthroughs in their understanding of the underlying fabric of reality. As Ilara concluded her speech, she felt a familiar warmth in her chest. It was a sensation she had first experienced during that fateful encounter with the Nexus entity, a connection to something vast and incomprehensible, yet deeply personal. And so, she said, her voice filled with emotion, as we move forward into this new age, let us remember that our strength lies not in our differences, but in our ability to bridge them. In honor of those who cannot be with us today, let us embrace this future with hope, curiosity, and above all, harmony. The audience erupted in applause, a cacophony of human cheers, mixing with the melodic tones of the concordance and the ethereal resonances of their extradimensional allies. As Ilara stepped down from the podium, she was immediately surrounded by well-wishers and colleagues. "Brilliant speech, Dr. Chen," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka, now head of the HFY's Xenobiology division. "The Council of Realities has already sent their approval of the protocol." Ilara smiled, squeezing her friend's hand. "Thank you, Yuki, but this is just the beginning. We have so much more to explore, to understand." As the crowd began to disperse, Ilara felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She turned to find herself face to face with Zhou, a being of pure energy who had emerged from one of the more stable portals. Though communication with Zhou's species was still challenging, they had formed a close bond over the years. "Ilara." Zhou's thoughts resonated in her mind, a cascade of colors and emotions accompanying the words. "Your words echo across realities. The path you shaped, it resonates with the cosmic symphony." Ilara felt a lump form in her throat. "Thank you, Zhou. I only wished Zix could see what their sacrifice has accomplished." Zhou's form shimmered, tendrils of energy reaching out to gently caress Ilara's face. "Who says they cannot? In the grand tapestry of existence, nothing is truly lost. Your friend's essence, it sings in the spaces between worlds." Before Ilara could respond, a commotion near one of the portal interfaces caught her attention. Dr. Rees, his hair now more grey than brown, was waving excitedly. "Ilara, you need to see this," he called out. Hurrying over, Ilara gasped at what she saw on the monitor. The portal, usually a swirling vortex of energy, had taken on a familiar iridescent quality, and at its center, a pattern was forming, one that Ilara recognized immediately as Zix's unique bioluminescent signature. Is it possible?" Ilara whispered, her heart racing. Dr. Rees shook his head in wonder. "I don't know, but after everything we've seen, everything we've learned, who's to say what's impossible anymore?" As they watched, the pattern grew more complex, shifting and changing in ways that seemed to defy the laws of physics. And then, for just a moment, Ilara felt it, a presence, achingly familiar yet fundamentally changed. "Zix," she breathed. The feeling intensified, a wave of emotion and information flooding her senses. In that instant, Ilara understood. Zix hadn't been destroyed in that final heroic act. They had been transformed, ascending to a state of existence beyond anything they had previously imagined. As the sensation faded, Ilara found herself laughing and crying at the same time. Around her, humans and aliens alike gathered, drawn by the palpable sense of wonder and joy emanating from the portal. "What does it mean?" someone asked. Ilara turned to face the crowd, her eyes shining with tears and newfound purpose. "It means," she said, her voice filled with determination, "that our journey is far from over. There are wonders out there beyond our wildest dreams, and it's up to us to find them." As the news spread, a sense of excitement and possibility swept through the gathered beings. The Harmony Protocol, already a monumental achievement, now seemed like just the first step on an endless path of discovery. In the days that followed, as teams of scientists and explorers prepared to delve deeper into the mysteries revealed by Zix's apparent return, Ilara found herself filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The loss she had carried for 5 years had transformed into a burning curiosity, a desire to understand the true nature of existence and humanity's place within it. Standing at the edge of one of the shimmering portals, Ilara took a deep breath. The universe, in all its infinite complexity, awaited, and this time she knew they wouldn't be facing it alone. Somewhere out there, Zix was waiting, along with wonders and challenges they couldn't begin to imagine. "Ready?" Dr. Tanaka asked, coming to stand beside her. Ilara nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "Ready, let's make some history." And with that, they stepped forward into the swirling energy, embarking on the next chapter of humanity's great cosmic adventure. The story that had begun with a crash in the desert had blossomed into an epic saga of transformation, sacrifice, and ultimate triumph. But as Ilara and her team ventured into the unknown, she knew that the greatest chapters were yet to be written. The universe, vast and mysterious, pulsed with possibility, and humanity, changed but undaunted, was ready to embrace its destiny among the stars.